Hey guys, it's Buddha Gem, and this is for Citizen Kong. Hey bro, you know I got mad respect for you. And I know we disagree from time to time, but as I'm watching the Fez Nite and your thing on anarchism, and I just had to respond. Let me put it to you like this: imagine someone told you, Citizen Kong, that they had a dream. They wanted to build an exhaust system for this Spitfire airplane, and I said, "Oh, you're ridiculous. That's impossible. Nobody can do that." And you'd say, "What?" You'd say, "No, Buddha Gem. The reason you say that is because you don't know the history. The history is I actually did. I built this exhaust system for the Spitfire myself with my own hands." The reason I would say that it couldn't be done is because I didn't know the history, right? I was ignorant of the history. And likewise, you're ignorant of the history of anarchism. It's not completely utopian. We do have real world examples, not just families, whole countries, whole societies. The best example in history by far would be the Spanish Revolution of 1936, and I'm going to leave a link in the sidebar for you. I hope you go check it out. There are other smaller examples: the Paris Commune, the Russian Revolution of 1917, the factory takeovers in Italy. We had smaller scale examples here in this country, the Haymarket Affair. There was Seattle. The city of Seattle was taken over through a general strike. There are smaller examples that are much larger than a family or even a little village. But the Spanish Revolution is by far the best example. So I'm going to just throw a few quotes at you, let you kind of give you a flavor, maybe excite you enough to look into this. One person, at least one author I've heard you mention in your videos is George Orwell, someone I think we both admire. A book I would highly recommend you read is Homage to Catalonia by George Orwell. It's an eyewitness account of the Spanish Revolution. I'm going to give you a brief quote. This is from George Orwell. "The anarchists were still in virtual control of Catalonia, and the revolution was still in full swing. To anyone who had been there since the beginning, it probably seemed even in December or January that the revolution period was ending. But when one came straight from England, the aspect of Barcelona was something startling and overwhelming. It was the first time that I had ever been in a town where the working class was in the saddle. Practically every building of any size had been seized by the workers and was draped with red flags or with red and black flags of the anarchists. Every wall was scrawled with a hammer and sickle and with the initials of the revolutionary parties. Almost every church had been gutted and its image burnt. Churches here and there were being systematically demolished by gangs of workmen. Every shop and cafe had an inscription saying that it had been collectivized. Even the boot blacks had been collectivized and their boxes painted red and black. Waiters and shop walkers looked you in the face and treated you as an equal. Servile and even ceremonial forms of speech had temporarily disappeared. Nobody said señor or don or usted. Everyone called everyone else comrade and thou, and said salud instead of buenos dias. Above all, there was a belief in the revolution and the future, a feeling of having suddenly emerged into an era of equality and freedom. Human beings were trying to behave as human beings and not as cogs in the capitalist system." So to give you some, I can't go into this in any detail, but due to the anarchist organizing and agitation, Spain in the 1930s had the largest anarchist movement in the world. At the start of the Spanish Civil War, over 1.5 million workers and peasants were members of the CNT, the National Confederation of Labor, an anarcho-syndicalist union federation, and 30,000 were members of the FAI, the Anarchist Federation of Iberia. The total population in Spain was only 24 million. You had a huge population of anarchists. And this was based on 3-4 generations organizing and agitating for change. You had poor peasants taking over farms. You had factory workers taking over factories, and not just taking them over, but increasing output by any measure. It was successful, and it didn't fail. It was defeated from the outside, from brute force. they had help from the fascists. Franco had help from Hitler. He had help from Mussolini. The communists betrayed us. It's a messy thing, but definitely if you're a fan of Orwell, check out Homage to Catalonia. Look into the Spanish Revolution. It's not a utopian dream, and most of the comments you make are kind of based out of ignorance, and that's not an attack on you. What I'd like you to do, though, Dave, or Citizen Kong, is to think about that a little bit, though. Why are you so ignorant of this? Because you're an intelligent guy. You know a lot of things, and it's not you're ignorant just because you're a buffoon. I mean, there's a reason why people don't know this history. They don't know working class history. There's a reason that when we were growing up, we didn't learn that the wage system was controversial. That even in the Republican platform of Abraham Lincoln, it was viewed as something that could maybe be tolerated for a temporary, thing, but it was essentially another form of slavery. It should never, it's ubiquitous now, right? All of us work for a wage. Most people can't even imagine a society that didn't have a wage system, and yet it's just another form of slavery. I mean, you look at this exhaust system you made for the Spitfire, Dave. Think about it. You said the guy paid what, $500-600 per pipe. Now, I don't want you to answer this by any means, but obviously there was a cost for material, and maybe whatever, the energy supply, running the welding machines, and you made something, right? But then there was something else called the profit that your boss made for doing absolutely nothing, right? I mean, you could say he did stuff, like he talked to the guy, he facilitated the whole process, but he made a profit. And if you really think about that, that profit is your money. You paid your boss for the service, for the ability to use his welding machine, his shop, whatever, what have you. It's a form of theft, is what it is. That's what profit is. That's it's essentially what profit is a form of theft. Anarchism isn't about getting rid of every kind of rule. It's not me saying, yo, I'm gonna go stomp Citizen Kong because I feel like it today. Rules of the road would still be in effect. Every anarchist, if you ever talk to an anarchist, you ever sit down and talk to me, we believe in an organized society. It's just not organized from the top down. It's organized from the bottom. It's you and I as working class people, the people who really, you and I make things. At the end of the day, we're not pushing papers around in inboxes and outboxes doing absolutely nothing. Imagine we're on Gilligan's Island, right? These people who have these paper pushing jobs, imagine them on Gilligan's Island, right? We need to harvest the coconuts, or we need to build a boat, and they're pushing papers around. They're not doing anything. They're not creating wealth. You and I are creating the wealth. The rest of these people live on our backs. If you think this through, it's a very simple concept. You recognize it as truth. It is. You and I create. At the end of the day, when you got to the shop and when you leave the shop, there's a tangible difference. There are things that have been created. When I show up to a floor that's just concrete and I leave and there are finished walls, that's a product. Okay? A lot of people that live off our labor, and that's the nature of this system. That's something that we're fighting against. Like I said, Homage to Catalonia. I'm going to send you a link, or I'm going to put a link to the Anarchist FAQ. You can read more about these historic examples. It's not a pipe dream. It's not something that's failed. It's something that has been crushed by brute force by people who are afraid to lose their position of privilege. They live off our labor. They don't want to change that, and they'd be really happy if you didn't know about it. So I hope you check these things out, brother, and peace.